اجت لينا عمار تعالوا جوزها راح عنه.
إذا بنبلش نحترم وقت الكل اللي حضروا. في البداية باسم رعية القديس بطرس، وهذا المركز مركز بيت القديس بطرس في بيرزيت، وبالنيابة عن مطرانية القدس الأسقفية للشرق الأوسط، أرحب بكم جميعا في إطلاق هذا الكتاب. أحب بشكل خاص أرحب بالكاتب السيد خافيير والقس الدكتور ديمتري الراغب اللي راح يقدم الكتاب، وأكيد بجميعكم كلهم باسمه ولقبه. كلكم أصدقاء وكلكم رعية وأحباء، فأهلا وسهلا بكم جميعا. أنا مش راح أحكي عن الكتاب، ولكن أنا راح أشجع هذه المبادرة في دراسات نسميها بوست كولونيال كريتيسيزم، بيركزوا على أهمية الأصوات الصادرة من تحت الألم، الأصوات اللي بتصدر من قلب المعاناة، الأصوات اللي بتحدد مصير واتجاه التحرير. لهذا السبب نحن اليوم عم نشهد لصوت جديد. لا شك انه بذل مجهود واسع في جمع المعلومات ليقدم رواية تحتوي شهادات أشخاص عم يتحدثوا عم بيعملوا في فلسطين وخارج فلسطين من أجل الحرية والاستقلال. أنا بشجع آخرين إنه يبادروا ويكملوا هذه المبادرة، لأنها مهمة جدا في صياغة الفكر الفلسطيني نحو التحرير والحرية. شكرا لحضوركم وأهلا وسهلا بكم جميعا. شكرا.
Thank you. We will switch now to English. Welcome everyone, and thank you for the Father for your welcoming words. I would like also to welcome you in the name of al-Kalima University and al-Kalima University Press, which actually has published this book. It's our 55th book that we published, and our focus in al-Kalima University Press is on culture, art, oral history, but also we have a focus on the Palestinian Christian community. And this book actually is part of a series of books that we have covering the Palestinian Christian community, trying to create a kind of a database. The last book we published a few months ago was about the Armenians, and I'm glad that also the author of that book, Dr. Khafir, is also among us. I would like to welcome especially Khafieer and to thank him for writing this book. I know it took from him so many years and research and hard work. And what I thought to do is I will give just a very short introduction, and then I would like to ask him a few questions so that we have a kind of a dialogue here, and then we will open it for Q&A with all of you. If you look at the book, Rooted in Palestine, Palestinian Christians and the Struggle for National Liberation, 1917 to 2004. The first thing that you will see is the foreword written by Fida Abdel-Hadi, Deputy Ambassador of Palestine at the UN. I don't think it was by chance that Khafeeir chose Fida for the foreword. A female diplomat, Muslim. Because I think this is where he feels at home. But then you turn to the next page and you will see that the book was dedicated in memory of no one else but Shireen Abu, again a female Christian in this case, a journalist. Again, this is where I think Khafeeir feels at home. But once you look at the endorsement on the back, you will find personalities like Miguel Coratinos, but you will find also journalists and people from the academia. This again reflects the sphere in which Khafeeir moves all the time. My wife asked me on the way here, why Beirzeit? Why not Ramallah? Why not Jerusalem? Why not why not or why not Chile? There is a reason for that. We will have to launch actually the American colonies in 2 weeks. But to answer my wife, because I didn't answer her in the card, I would like to read this paragraph from the book. The old Episcopal Church of Beirzeit, a beautiful and humble stone building, was where Kamal Nasser, demonstrated his talent for playing the organ. Nasser came from a prominent Palestinian Episcopal family, strongly linked to the development of the Beirzeit College and later the university. Kamal was in charge of PLO communications in Beirut when on April 10, 1973, Israeli forces executed him in his apartment in West Beirut. That night, 3 other Palestinians were assassinated by the same forces: Kamal Adwan, Muhammad Yusuf al-Najjar, and his wife Rasmiya al-Najjar. And I think this affinity of Khafeeir with Kamal is why Khafeeir chose Beirzeit, and in specific the Anglican Church, and actually wanted to have the portrait of Kamal here and actually also a chair for him, because I think this is where this is like a person you look up for, because he was in communication exactly like Khafeeir was as well. If you look at the book is divided in 5 chapters, basically chronologically. So the first chapter focuses on the on the role of the Palestinian Christians from the Balfour Declaration to the Nakba, and then the second chapter from the Nakba to 1967, the third chapter from the fall of Jerusalem in 1967 to the siege of Beirut, 1982, and then the fourth chapter, basically what led to Oslo. It's the prelude to Oslo, and then chapter 5 from Oslo to the siege of Yasser Arafat. The author uses multiple sources, including Palestinian, Jewish, international sources. The author spent months at the archive of the Latin Seminary in Bejal looking into their documents, which provided the author with new material. I think this is maybe one important aspect of this book, that it has really some new material that Khafeeir was able to gather from the archive of the Latin Patriarchy. And here again, I would like to stress the fact that in the archive of churches, we have a rich source for research. And I encourage everyone to look into these sources. And also new material was acquired from many interviews that the author conducted in Brazil. This book, though the subtitle says Palestinian Christians and the Struggle for National Liberation, it is really a book about the national liberation, with an emphasis on the role of the Christians. The author shows the diverse role of Palestinian Christians, from armed resistance to feud raiders to peace negotiators. Also, he alludes to areas like their role in education, health, humanitarian, and tourism development as well. And so my first question to Khafir, when thinking of the role of Christians during the mandate time, what do you think was their major contribution between the two world wars?
Thank you, Reverend Luthi. Just before answering that question, I have to say that I feel very weird. A very good friend of mine who's here said, I'm very happy that he wrote this book because it's the first time I'm writing something on your name. I think it's much easier to tell people what to say than picking my name. And it assumes a responsibility. You mentioned, for example, that I spoke about a few times. I was very careful about which word to use on those issues because it's important to have a book that actually shows a comprehensive, credible perspective and doesn't fall into propaganda. Not all Christians were leaders in the national liberation movement, but at the same time, here, to your question, you cannot understand the Palestinian national movement without understanding the role of Palestinian. If you look at the names, for example, of the first Palestinian nationalistic organizations, Palestinian Christians were totally overrepresented, if we talk about percentages. You can ask people about why. I think it's very important initiative of the university to have more than one book where finally we Palestinians are writing about Palestinian Christians. And most of the narrative you will find is basically written either by Israelis or by foreigners. So here you are not going to find this narrative of the Holy Land Christians between two extreme systems, and here you basically understand where Palestinians are. Overrepresented because they were, in terms of percentage, more educated. That's a fact, especially a century ago. Palestinian Christians raised the percentage of literacy in Palestine, for example. After the Ottoman period, the percentage of literacy in Palestine was somehow minimum. We're talking about women in 1920 being only 3% of the literacy in Palestine. So you can understand Palestinian Christian women which work in what they play in education. And a very important role played in which they also cannot be understood without looking into the struggle of the Greek Orthodox Church. So you cannot understand Palestinian nationalism, not even Palestinian Christian, Palestinian nationalism, without understanding the struggle for the rights of the Arab Palestinian community in the Greek Orthodox Church. It's a struggle that has been going on for centuries. It's not over. Now I understand there are other priorities to talk about, so we're not going to get too much into this. But it's still there. It's a struggle that deals with real estate, but also deals with the presence of Palestinians in key positions in the church. And that's how many centers of Christian life, Jerusalem, Jaffa, Haifa, and particularly Bejada, by the way, 100 years ago, became part of the center of this Palestinian nationalistic movement. Particularly in 1922, when the Greek Patriarchate sold the first piece of land to Zionist organization, which brought a strong response from Palestinian Christians that organized the first congresses, first in Haifa, then in Bejada, and then in Bejada. So this struggle was recognized by the Muslims, the Zionists, and the federal part of the national movement is what started to have this very strong and prominent role of Palestinian Christians in the national movement.
Thank you. So maybe we move a bit. You have a chapter about the role of Palestinian Christians in forming the PLO, and I think this might be of interest to some of the diplomats who are here. Maybe they might not be aware of this fact. Can you tell us maybe a bit about this era?
Certainly. The PLO was formed just in 1964, which, by the way, doesn't mean that before we didn't have a national representation. That's very important because sometimes what we hear from Zion Central is that since the PLO was created just in 1964, it means that before Palestinians didn't have votes. That's not true. An important part of the book, for example, which it sounds nice for me to say, but you recommend, is to talk about the beginnings of Palestinian diplomacy. Right? Some people may think that we have diplomats for the past 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. We had diplomats in 1947. We had diplomats in 1948. And if you look at their names, it's true they were led by Jamal Husseini, Musa al-Alawi, all of them educated in Palestinian Christian schools, but they were mainly Christian diplomats. And the Batman, Albert Robb, so just to make a point that before the PLO there was an organization. The PLO comes in 1964. One of the first steps taken by the PLO, by the first president, was to send 2 Palestinian Christians as envoys to Latin America. One of them, for political reasons, Palestine, became the first PLO representative of the UN. He went to Brazil. He was in charge of the Arab League mission there. And the second one was a female, 34 years old, who was sent to Honduras to collect money from the Palestinian community over there. So it's important from this very beginning, it's very important role. There was only one Palestinian Christian in the first PLO section community, but a very prominent one. And unfortunately, I myself didn't know about him until I started doing the research for this book. He was originally from Shafa'an. He played a very prominent role in creating the Voice of Palestine. He was a journalist. He was in charge of the English edition of the Daily Star newspaper in Beirut. And he was perhaps the most prominent Palestinian figure in Lebanon. Before Shafa'an was the first representative took over there. So the Palestinian Christian role in the first PLO, the information of the PLO is particularly important. In the Palestinian National Council, in the first deputy city was as well, also we had a number of other people, and not to forget that we had a government of all Palestine created in 1948 by those who were in the Arab Higher Committee, and the finance minister of that government, which wasn't very functional, as the purpose it is, was also Palestinian.
Thank you. Maybe to add to that, just to give you a sense of the book, I quote just 2 sentences. One of the founders of the PLO was Dr. Khafir Saif, a refugee from Tiberias, whose father was an evangelical pastor. I quote this because we don't have many evangelicals in the book. So Dr. Saif had a prominent career, first as a director of the Palestine Research Center in Beirut, and then as a professor in the USA. He also worked for Arab embassies in Washington and at the United Nations. Archbishop Gabriel Abu Sa'da from Istanbul was also one of the participants in that meeting. Other prominent Palestinian Christians involved in the creation of the PLO were Saeed Khoury and Hasib Sabbah, refugees from Safar who had established a successful CCC based in Beirut. Here actually I missed something that somebody, for example, you didn't mention artists, and as the president of the those focusing on arts, I always look at that. Vladimir Tamari actually was the one who formed the logo at that time for the theater. So, no, this is why yeah. So, we move on. Khafeeir, you conducted several interviews with many people, and you have these interviews in the book. Was there an interview that left a permanent impression on you? You would like maybe some like fresh data?
I have to say that I said this book doesn't have propaganda, but I understand its political sensitivity. So there is a bit of self-censorship in a few things. Because the interviews I had were fascinating, and some people spoke perhaps more than what they would have expected, perhaps, to say. But there are a few things that I didn't add. I think hopefully other researchers are going to look better. I remember when Victor Bishop Atlaq, I asked him, when did his relationship with the PLO start? Because Atlaq was the first Palestinian Christian patriarch of the Latin Quarter. He said, I never met any PLO official until I became patriarch. So I was surprised. He actually said that in writing the book, even though I didn't write the name of the person who did it, he said that when I became patriarch, President Yasser Arafat sent me a gift for the patriarchy, about the man who might be more about had. And he rejected the badge. He said, I'm a Palestinian, and now everyone is going to be looking at me, so I cannot really accept any gift. But he mentioned something that when I insist about his background with the PLO, I asked him, well, for Black September, he was a priest in Jordan. What was your role there? You were serving Jordanians and Palestinians. And a part of the Jordanians and a part of the Palestinians were fighting. So what happened with you in this period? He said, well, a couple of days after the fighting started, someone rang the bell in the church. It was a group of Jordanian police officers from a nearby police station. They came asking for protection. He was a priest in a community which was in downtown Amman, fully populated by Palestinians. So of course he opened the church for them for protection. He said a couple of days later, the bell rang again. This kind of Palestinian asking for protection. And he said, of course, you can enter. We have the Jordanian police in the moment, the Palestinians in this group, and he was protecting them. Which I think helps understanding of Israel later when he became patriarch. And when he was being interviewed by the Voice of Israel radio in 1988, a year after he became patriarch. And he was asked, why are you supporting the Palestinians that much? We should not talk about politics. So his answer was, my role is to protect those who are oppressed. And if Israelis were oppressed, then protect them. So the answer of the anchor was, so is it wishful thinking? That's what we want, for Israelis to be oppressed? He said, no, I don't want anyone to be oppressed. But that's how patriarchs of Allah understood Israel. And that's why, with the conclusion of the book, they wrote only in 2004, and made the point that the main change after 2004 was the replacement of patriarchs of Allah. And therefore, the absence of a strong Palestinian Christian voice among the Catholic churches in Jerusalem. But anyway, more is it?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Patriarch Sabah talked to me. He wanted to be here, but it's too late for him, so he apologized. He sent me his best regards. Khafeer, you worked a lot at the archive of the Latin Patriarch in Lajamع. What was the most interesting discovery you made here? A piece of information, a document, a discovery where you said, I found it?
One of the main accusations that Israel made against President Arafat was that he would say one thing in Arabic and something else in English. And I think if you look to work in Latin Patriarchy, they also have something in French, not in English, and something else in Arabic. And especially during the mandate period. So during the mandate period, they have 3 publications: one in French, one in English, and one in Arabic. The French one almost never mentions what's going on in Palestine. So you could see a publication of 1936, the big described 6 months, nothing. They were just talking about the Bible, how to interpret it, these and things that perhaps the revolutionists were not really careful about in this matter. In English, same thing. In Arabic, though, there's a whole difference. And that comes from who was in charge. So the Arabic version was made by Father Khalima, who was, I think, one of the main people who focused on this. Father Khalima, he was close to the Arab community. He was also moved to Switzerland. And he was exiled in 1951 for reasons that we're going to see in the book. He wanted to Beirut. And one of the nice things I discovered with researching is that we celebrate in Palestine on January the 1st the starting of the Palestinian Revolution, when Fatah had the first military operation. What I didn't know was that by the end of 1964, Yasser Arafat, Abu'Yad, and Jihad, who were the 3 main candidates of Fatah, they appeared at his church in Beirut, and they asked for his blessing to start the Arab Spring. His response to them was, "You're too late. I was waiting for you for a while, but to have the blessing and be blessed and have this program." I believe it is something that all Greeks do today. But it was part of what he believed was the right thing. So seeing this change, that particularly in Latin Patriarchy tend to become one line, especially when we talk about the paper. And that also deals with how much churches allow Palestinians to become bishops or to be more open priests. And that's a big difference, for example, the main churches. For example, today the Lutheran and Anglican churches that are mainly built up today by the Palestinian Christian clergy, and it makes a huge difference in terms of the narrative they use compared to people that, as I described in the book, there's actually a sentence that I discovered in the Latin seminary, a report made by Bishop Ryan, who was the Greek Catholic Bishop of Haifa. It's a very interesting character. This was a Lebanese. He was living in the U.S. In the U.S., he became very close to Martin Luther King and the struggle for the civil rights movement. And when he became Bishop of Haifa in the 70s, the early 70s, he discovered the cases of Bikr and Kufr, which I also described. There are 2 Palestinian Christian villages that were ethnically cleansed, but they became internally displaced from refugees of the Israeli citizens, and they kept since 1948 trying to so Yusuf Raya, he becomes a bit disturbed because they want to work, they want an Israeli work, but no Israeli government wanted to implement the position. So he goes to meet Prime Minister Norman Mayer as a bishop of the church. And when he gets a negative answer from Norman Mayer, he goes back to his community and he organizes the community to make the first demonstrations for the return to Bikr and Kufr. And he ordered the closure of all Greek Catholic churches the Israeli decision. Actually, that we're going to learn on Sunday because you have killed justice in Israel. Now, this comes from the background of the civil rights movement. How much of this we will find, once again, because the questions are really open, and I have an answer myself. Sometimes I don't. How much of this we can find today? That's also a question to you.
Thank you. Reading your book, one could see that you admire four people, maybe in a special way. You mentioned already two of them, Patriarch of Father Ibrahim Ayyad, but also Archbishop Capucci and Bishop Eliyahu. Actually, four bishops from three different Christian traditions. Can we see maybe just one sentence about each one of them, why you wrote extensively about them?
I will say something that may be a bit controversial. I'm not a big fan of Bishop Capucci, to be honest. I respect what he did for Palestine, but in all my research, and perhaps those who were alive at that time would explain better, I fail to see the mixture he would make between his role as a Christian religious person and the person who's committed to the national cause. I think Bishop of is much more geared in this perspective. Bishop Capucci was actually very criticized by the Latin Patriarch at that time, who was not, was an Italian, he was not against the Palestinian national movement, but he said, well, I think Capucci went a step ahead. Let's put it this way. Capucci, for those who don't know him in the book, he was detained by the Israelis for bringing weapons for the resistance from Lebanon to Palestine. But he played an extremely important role, and that's something that we have to recognize. Now, when it comes to Bishop Eliyahu, he was an Anglican bishop, and I think some of his relatives are here. He played an extraordinary role. He was detained by the Israelis and expelled from Palestine, but he was the reverend of Ramallah. And he was accused of smuggling bombs for an attack that took place in West Jerusalem, which he never had anything to do with it. But whenever he was asked about it, why he claims that they expelled him, his answer would always be, to interview a few people that were with him, that Israelis didn't really handle the amount of relations that he built with the diplomatic community in Jerusalem and passing messages from Jordan to Palestine. He was forgiven when he was expelled. But when he was expelled, with a number of figures from the West Bank, including the mayor of Ramallah at that time, Beyrouth, he became an executive member of the executive committee of the PLO. He played a very prominent role in building up the diplomatic capacity of Palestine. He used it particularly in the United Kingdom, but elsewhere. Remember when President Arafat went to the UN in Geneva for the first time, it was Bishop Khalid who was present in every single press conference. But it's also important to see when he ended up resigning to the Bureau of Executive Committee. We cannot just look at things for the revolution and see it was all perfect. He resigns after the attack on the Akil al-Awla ship made by a very small faction in the PLO that actually at that time their membership was frozen in the PLO. But he considered that his values were not to be there in the signing. It doesn't mean that he stopped his commitment, but he resigned to the executive committee. So that there were discussions, but I think in terms of integrity of this person, he is effectively completely understudied the role of Bishop in the PLO.
you quoted the Palestinian Christian saying, I quote, in 1948 we lost our land, in 1967 we lost our children, alluding to the problem of Christian immigration. Do you feel that the role of Palestinian Christians today is weaker, is diminishing, or is as is?
That person is the father of Khafisa, who was our ambassador in the Palestine, the UK, and the US, and Russia. A fantastic person that unfortunately now is in the UK and not here. Have you seen him?
In Jerusalem.
Is he in Jerusalem? But I always complain to Afif telling him that he could be here teaching us. That's very good news. That's a good excuse for people in Jerusalem now. We need him in Jerusalem. Now, this quote was because two of his children, three children, two of his children were the Israelis when they occupied in 1967, they made a census, and everyone who was not here, they lost their residency rights, including thousands of students that were not here at the time. Many of them were Palestinian Christians, including Afif and his brother. And I think we cannot deny that the losing percentage of people here affects the capacity of Palestinian Christians have to react to it. And I think that's very unfortunate. But those who left are somewhere. We cannot talk about Palestinian Christians, actually we cannot talk about Palestinians without talking about our people in the diaspora. We cannot talk about Palestinians without talking about our refugee camps. We forget al-Bab refugee camp with 4,000 Palestinian Christians in Beirut. We forget al-Asad refugee camp with 1,000 Palestinian Christians in southern Lebanon. And of course, some people tend to forget all Palestinian refugees altogether. We should never forget it. So the role of Palestinian Christians perhaps here, it may have been affected by immigration, and that's something that has to be started. But something that I expect the conclusion is that regardless of the numbers, the institutions built by Palestinian Christians in Palestine made the Palestinian Christian voice behavior perhaps in a stronger way than the numbers of Palestinian Christians here. And the Palestinian Christian presence is an organic presence in Palestine. We are not foreigners, we are not immigrants, we are not foreign community, we are the people of the land. Even those who were endorsed by our community recently, 100 years ago, Armenians, Assyrians, they became an integral part of our community. That's something that is mentioned here. In the Armenian community, who would say that there were over 40 martyrs fighting for Palestine in 1948? Who would say that Armenians were those who protected Yahweh in 1948? That's a main reason why the Haganah did not take over the city. Who could speak about the role that many Armenians and Assyrians have in the cultural life in Palestine? And quite a bit is mentioned. I didn't forget about it, so we put together in Palestine. It's a sad situation when we say that Palestinian Christians are less than 2% now in the occupied territories. But I don't think that the Palestinian national identity can be understood without Palestinian Christians. And that's something that we remain regardless of the numbers of the percentage.
I think, Khafeer, you are the proof that even if Palestinians immigrate, they keep coming back and they keep being involved in the struggle, and I think you are the best example of that. So I would like to conclude before we start to take a few questions by quoting a few sentences from the concluding chapter. Just before 7 a.m. on Wednesday, 11 May 2022, breaking news from Jenin paralyzed Palestine. Shireen Abu'aid, senior Al Jazeera correspondent in Palestine, had been assassinated as she was covering an Israeli raid. Israeli government officials changed their version of what had happened at least 4 times in less than 24 hours in a clear attempt to disseminate misinformation. For all the eyewitnesses, there was no doubt. Shireen had been killed by an Israeli bullet. The images of priests praying around Shireen's body was the first indication for many that she was Christian. Shock about her assassination extended beyond the borders of historic Palestine and included countless demonstrations of mourning and solidarity through the Arab and Muslim world. Shireen's funeral demonstrated that Palestinian Christian, as an integral part of Palestinian society, is not a mere slogan, but a reality. Shireen was assassinated in a refugee camp, was honored in many towns and villages, and crossed Israeli checkpoints. She was laid to rest near to her parents in the Mount Zion Orthodox Cemetery, where Palestinians from all over Palestine gathered to pray and mourn together. The role that Palestinian Christians have played historically continues to an extent that goes way beyond their numbers and includes through their institutions. I think you were alluding to that. It would be impossible to understand Palestinian nationalism without understanding the role played by Christians since the 19th century and how intra-Christian issues such as the case of the Arab Orthodox in the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate have helped to shape it. In this book, and I think this is really an important paragraph, in this book I have also concluded a journey through my national identity, Khafeeir. I felt compelled to put on paper the information I had been told about anonymous individuals and forgotten organizations that contributed to the Palestinian National Liberation Movement. I wanted to put these efforts into context to understand the historical perspective of Palestinian diplomacy. My first inspiration was drawn from the library of the Latin Patriarchate Seminary of Beit Jala, where Na'im Khadr used to smuggle himself into the forbidden Marxist books section before he decided to become a diplomat instead of a priest. It concluded in the small Episcopal community of Bيرزيت with its beautiful stone church, where Kamal Nasser used to play the organ occasionally before being exiled. Both men ended up giving their lives for Palestine. In 1999, during the First Intifada, Patriarch Sabah wrote words that could summarize the stories presented in this book. Quotation from Patriarch Sabah: Muslims are our fellow compatriots. We share the same future, the same country, and the same heritage. My brothers and sisters, you yourselves must maintain this solidarity and this unity. You must love one another. Together, we must share our suffering and our hope. Whatever we have at this time must be shared, be it much or little. With this sentence, actually, of Patriarch Sabah, Khafeeir concludes his book. Congratulations, Khafeeir. I think we can take a few questions, comments. Please be sure. Please. Maybe
اسمي جلال أبو خاطر. My name is Jalal Abu Khatir. Khafeeir, I'm very proud of you today. Congratulations. I want to give you the chance, maybe perhaps at the end, to speak a little bit more about Beit Jala today. In the second Intifada, we talk about Jenin refugee campus. We also talk about Beit Jala a lot. 20 years have passed and we're still talking about Jenin, and we're still talking about Beit Jala, especially what's happening in Makhrur and and elsewhere. So where is Beit Jala today, and where do you see hope in the struggle of today?
We're touching a very sensitive matter. I was questioned on my answers, and the way it happens here. Why I did this in Beit Jala? Somebody else goes here and point them out. He said, why did you the church?
دايما كبير قبل البيت. لا ودي اني افهم شو بيحكي، ولكن لانه بتتكلم باللغه الانجليزيه والسمع عندي ضعيف واللغه الانجليزيه شوي صعبه علي، انا ما استوعبت، انا مدرك انه تكلم كلام جميل جدا. هو وأبوه ولده هيك شيء، ولكن بسبب ظهوره في فلسطين وجده كان أخرج رجال وعامل معنا في الهجرة في الرجالة، ربى فيه حب الوطن وحب البلد، ولما جاء إلى الرجال هون فلسطين أثبت وجوده، ولنا مرة ثانية يذكر فيه بسبب أن الشباب المغتربين يكتبوا كتبهم ويكونوا نبراس ومثل للشباب الفلسطيني في الخارج.
You're very smart, you took away the criticism. Yeah, that's the first thing I say. And the second thing that I didn't even have the opportunity that reminded me of I'm very touched because I have almost every single person here that I wanted to hear. Relatives, friends, colleagues, people that even without being originally from my family became my family as well here, especially in the past period they had that I could not leave Ramadan due to the occupation from a lot of people. And for me, I will never forget the Christmas dinners, Easter prayers, and so on. To all of them, each one of you here, my appreciation. And particularly, I'm very touched that Dr. Majdi is here with us today. I was surprised by the response he gave yesterday from the trip. And Dr. Mike, because Dr. Mike has a very long history of knowing Dr. Mike Taylor. And when I did my BA dissertation on Palestinian refugees in the process, and I graduated, she was there in Chile. She was ambassador to Palestine in Chile. And she wrote Balawa and other sweets. Jala, going back to your question. It's a very interesting case. My family initially immigrated to Chile because of the political engagement that one of them had with the Palestinian community. You can understand what happened. And so it was very common for people in Beit Jala to be in the land. It's very much seen, for example, for the 1976 elections. You know, the Israelis, they tried to divide Palestinians between those here and those outside, extreme PLO outside, and moderate people here. So they engaged in some municipal elections. In 1976 was the last point. Because the PLO lists or the pro-PLO list won big time. In Beit Jala, they won all the seats. Would that happen today? I don't know. So, but if there is a place in Palestine that has suffered the meaning of Israel's permanent settlement enterprise is Beit Jala. 2/3 of the town were taken either by settlements, by roads for settlers, by military bases, by the war. Now there is no place to live. They happened with the police station, but Jala was much more than what happened in Rwanda in terms of compartments. There is a report from UN OCHA that we wrote in the book that says that by 2004, 10% of the Palestinian Christian population of the Jala left the country. But again, perhaps we should not just focus on the dark part. We should try to bring some hope. There are people that try to come back. People who myself, but I think there are others, and they should be highlighted. And perhaps they were not lucky like me to find a job and to stay here. But I think more and more people would like to come, and it's important for the future of any Palestinian Christian presence for politicians here to stop thinking with a closed mind. Whenever I meet the mayor of Jala or Bethlehem or even Rwanda, I tell them, you are not the mayor of 10 or 50,000 people. You are the mayor of 300,000 people, 200,000 people. Count your diaspora. If they will not come back, eventually they can invest, they can send their children. We have a responsibility here to open up Palestine for them. It's not easy, especially soon we get people in the airport. Many are scared to come here, we know. But that's part of the struggle. And I think in Jala, with all that has suffered, it also shows hope that despite everything that the Jala lost, people are still there. And one of the messages I think that this book brings is that people sometimes focus too much on Christian immigration. And whenever we have Christmas or Easter, we find stories in the news media talking about how many Christians left Palestine. And I think it's important to focus on those who stay in Palestine. It's important to focus on those who struggle to be here in Palestine. Sometimes I pray here. How many people we pray every Sunday? 7? 8? No, 8 people. But those 8 people that come, whenever I talk to them, I think the main message they have is that they are not willing to let this church close. Right? So being here, all of you, that's also a message of support for this church not to close. So again, this Palestinian Christian presence is not disappearing like some people are talking about. It's here to stay, it's here to struggle. And it's here to bring us people.
First of all, I would like to talk again from this book. It's very important, and I think the book is very sensitive. Also, it is important. I haven't read it, but it's true for you to saying that it's all do something for those who are here and those who are in the diaspora. However, I would like to ask you the importance in the discussion about religious which is very important, and this is about it. However, I would like to ask you if you mention some, for example, community in Latin America, in Chile, are very prominent in Chile, and people from there that they have also to push for the recognition of the state of Palestine, because their influence was there, and also their internal feeling of patriotism was there, and they have to go. So I wanted to mention this about prominent people who are civil people. When I asked him
Also, the Syrian and Lebanese Christians
your last question.
Last question. Well, in spite of your bias, but we love you so much, and we think that you did a great job by making this book available for the next generation to read about Palestine and Palestinian Christians and what they're doing for Palestine. Two very quick comments. In my opinion, just to follow up on what Ambassador was talking about. Yes, Palestinian Christians, just like Palestinian Muslims, they left Palestine forcibly, I have to say, but Palestine never left them. And they were always present in their people's struggle, wherever they were and whatever they did. Regarding Capucci, and who is a national figure to us, he's certainly not controversial in any way or shape or form. But let me tell you beyond the Palestinians what Capucci did. Capucci went, a country like Ethiopia, to make a postal stamp for a patriarch or a Christian person. He went to that level. He made Palestinian nationalism and Christianism as a genuine part of Islam, also present in the Arab world as a whole, and in countries that does not have even one Christian. So I think the role he played is extremely important in Palestinian nationalism, and his words still ring in my ear. When I met him in the embassy a few years before he passed away, he was as nationalistic and as ready for the fight as he was much earlier when he was detained. So that's an important aspect. I just wanted to ask one very important question as it relates to the Christians in Palestine and their general role. I wonder if you have captured in a way the aspect that they all not only play, but they have influence or further influence in the Arab world as a whole, and they have, because we know that they were not always known as Christians, and that's a known fact. They were known as the nationalist leaders. I hope that element was covered, and I think it was. But thank you very much, and our congratulations, and our best wishes also.
I think we've been talking for an hour.
Yeah.
And I still feel good. Just to clarify, Bishop Capucci, once you read the book, you understand the importance of Capucci beyond the church. And actually, I think one point which is for those who are more into clear politics, there was a Palestine National Council that was held in Damascus when he was released from Israeli jail. The commitment, the policy made with Israelis that Archbishop Capucci would be away from politics. The first thing he did when he arrived in Rome was to take a flight and go to Damascus to attend the Palestine National Council. At the moment that the Syrian government was trying to divide the kingdom and push some forces against President Yasser Arafat, and Capucci being Syrian, he stood by Yasser Arafat and stayed with Yasser Arafat all the time. So he was extremely loyal to the Palestinian side of the Palestinian national. And I started the third chapter by showing a bit of the contradictions between some of the heads of churches after 67. But the first one I talked about Capucci. I said, Archbishop Darren Capucci was sitting in his office in the Greek Catholic Patriarchate of Jerusalem behind the Imperial Hotel in a few minutes from the Africa. 1 week had passed since Israel occupied the city. A week that Bishop had spent burying martyrs and trying to raise the morale of the people. His nationalistic tendencies were known to Israelis who had dealt with him prior to 1967 during his visit to Jaffa in the community there remained under the responsibility of the Jerusalem Patriarchate. The quiet moment in the office was interrupted by an invitation to meet the person responsible for Christian affairs from the Israeli government. The Archbishop responded immediately. He could not accept an invitation from an authority he did not recognize. And that was the first head of church that responded like this to Israeli invitation. So clearly, the role of the Baruchi, politically speaking, was tremendous. My first comment, though, that the controversy still has regarding his role as a patron, as a head of the church. Politically speaking, he was one of the most loyal people that we would find. Let me note in the last moment, and I hope your book, Minister Leader, comes soon. And it's important that we writing our history. Just like Dr. Hassan Al-Abadian published a book, Armenians from Palestine. We're also celebrating here the presence of Fida Julius, the daughter of Sabri Julius, that we also mentioned here in the book, and she's coming out now with a very important book also on the history of her family. Another Palestinian Christian, this one from the 48th territory, one of the 5 people who returned after also here and that managed to get back Israeli citizenship and go back to Fasulta village. So, again, numbers may be playing against, but we're still coming out very proud of our very quickly. I agree with both comments. I didn't focus too much on Palestinian Christians outside, but I mentioned a few episodes. When it comes to Chile, I mentioned al-Arajali, for example. Was very close to Ahdad, one of the men of the operational head here at the peak. And when he was sent to Chile, he made cells over there to let money as well. And he succeeded. He described part of his work there. So there are some elements, but of course that's not the main topic of the book. But then I think that we should research more on this. Those are very relevant issues, and we should keep researching. I would like to thank you all, and particularly I would like to conclude by thanking everyone here who read the book, who gave comments to the book. It was read and reviewed by many people. I would like to thank also those who refused to read. One of those who read the book and supported this is Father Thomas, who is the deputy representative of the policy in Palestine. I will not talk much about Father Thomas because we rely on Facebook. I will just say that our Lord knows what we have done for Palestine. I think we're very thankful because he's leaving us. He will become a bishop very soon, and he's becoming the ambassador of the Holy See, the Muslim in Madagascar. And today is birthday as well. We're going to celebrate with him, but I think that many people here know what he did for Palestine. I think if we read the book up until today, we will be part of that book, definitely. From England and Kufar Balam to the house of the Nasser family, again, our Lord was the needs of Palestine, so we are very thankful. And I think we are going to celebrate your birthday all together, because I think from the very first moment we came to Palestine, you adopted all Palestinians, not only Palestinian Christians, as a family. So we are very proud of this, and very proud of every one of you who are here. So we would just like to thank you, and you're supposed to say anything else. And I am still here.
I think what Sam did is really very important and encouraging. We need to write our own story. We need to write our own narrative. What I always say is that in 48 we did not lose only our land, we lost our narrative. And it's really important that we write our own story. For too long it was people from abroad writing our story the way they wanted to see us. And now is the time, or we started actually with the first Intifada, to have the courage to write our own story. So I encourage you, and I'm glad to hear that Dr. May is writing that book. I will switch to Arabic للمهتمين بهذا الموضوع. غدا الساعة 6 مساء في متحف محمود درويش سيكون لي محاضرة عن موضوع مداخل جديدة في اللاهوت الفلسطيني، اللي بحكي فيه عن نفس الموضوع ولكن من ناحية اللاهوت. ايش الفكر المسيحي اللي اتطور من ال36 لليوم، وليش اتطور وكيف اتطور. فبكره غدا الساعة 6 مساء في متحف محمود درويش. اهلا وسهلا بالجميع. شكرا لحضوركم، والكلمة الأخيرة لراعي البيت وراعي
شكرا. I think Khafeeir deserves a round of applause. For such a marvelous work. And I just need to say 3 comments. The first, the most important and difficult thing for the writer is to decide what to include and what to not. So it is not easy because a writer cannot put everything in a book. And that is why when we talked about the narrative and the role of the other Christian Palestinians, I'm sure Khafeeir will hopefully do that in the future, but I'm sure that he could not, in any possible way, include everything in a single book. So this is understandable. The second point that I connected to the first point is that I would like to quote the French philosopher Jacques Derrida, who said, "Writing always leads to more writing." So I hope this would be an advice for you, so that you will carry on and do more writing about the Christian role in the Palestinian movement. The last thing that I want to advise, just keep a note here for you. I am very much interested in the relationship between discourse, some of what you have done, and the production of knowledge and power. Because I have heard some people in the audience asking about other people who engaged in the Palestinian liberative movement, and they use the word prominent. And my question is, what is the relationship between the production of knowledge and power? And what about the not prominent? We need also to include these voices because they are as important as the prominent voices that we read and write about. Having said that, on behalf of everyone, we celebrate today Khafeeir, and we would like to invite you on a reception on his honor, and of course we would like to tell everyone that was my last comment. To tell everyone of what Einstein said. Einstein said the most important place to know is the library. So please search for the book and don't forget to buy it. So that is where the library, and this is where the reception. Don't mix. And thank you everyone for your